one of the things that's confusing me about the whole situation regarding COVID, I know we're going to talk about Andy Burnham shortly, but, and this comes back to the holiday situation which we talked about earlier, is if by May everyone who's 50 and over has had the jab,
yeah,
and clear, that's it, isn't it? Surely we can go on holidays. Surely we can open venues like
it's
you
still
own.
About menu. It's
venues
still about
like you own.
It's still about numbers, though.
But the numbers of people who've been affected and dying from COVID are, in general, overall, number-wise, there's exceptions, obviously, but there's exceptions for people crossing the road and getting run over and people dying of pneumonia.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, it's people over 50 who are affected, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? If we've all been had the injection, we can't get it again. We've got the antibodies running around our system. Why can't we open? Why can't you open your nightclubs?
Because it won't be safe.
Why?
Because it's not got to the level where it's totally under control, and
But
you've got variants as well. You've got variants as well.
Variants of flu
I'm not talking about the super strain that Boris unleashed before Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just the fact that there are certain issues we need to be safe. Why don't we just take the time, take a month, 2 months? I get it's difficult, but if you now reopen, and I'm saying this as someone who's got a big company with a lot of stuff shut down right now. If we reopen again and employ everybody and get everybody in and fire it all up again, and then we have to send everybody home, that is going to cause so much damage.
No, I don't agree with you, Mike. I think it's absolute nonsense now. The numbers we're talking about.
So we just let everyone die who's going to die?
Who's going to die?
And just get on with
Who's going to die? We've had the injection.
Well, there's plenty
What's the point
of people.
Of the injection?
You've not had it.
I said by a certain period, by summer, by end of May.
Well, then you talk about it then, because you're talking about science fiction now, aren't you? You don't know what's going to happen. You've no idea.
Actually, one of the things that government are doing well, besides fiddling the money and keep backhanders, is injecting people. I mean, I know.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes.
Well, I'm hearing that a lot on Sky News.
My friend, loads of my friends who are under 60 say, I've had the injection already.
Wow,
I mean,
that's it. It used to be the show-off.
Jim.
The show-off in life. Guy. Oh, go on. Yeah.
He's had it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I get that. Yeah. The show-off item used to be like, I know a mate and he's loaded. I know a mate and he's a footballer. And now it's like, I know a mate, he's had an injection.
Nonsense.
Weird life, isn't it?
Nonsense. Let's just open up when everybody who is over 50 has had the jab.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Well, let's chat about leaving lockdown, because we've in Manchester, I would argue, have had the sharp end of the Brexit and the COVID stick. The Manchester has had so much shit with this. We have been locked down. We were put into a tier that we shouldn't have been in. We suffered more than most regions. I'm sorry, I hate to say that. You can all have a go at me, but Manchester really paid for this. While other regions down south with similar figures were allowed to trade and do whatever they wanted. And when we hit Christmas, let's be right, we all escalated the whole problem out of control, and now there's thousands of people dead that didn't need to be. So Andy Burnham has got something to say about when we should leave lockdown and whether we should go back to those tiers that we had.
Now talking about the last year, you'll remember how in 2020 lockdown restrictions were eased at different speeds in different areas, the so-called tier system. But as more people get vaccinated, attention is starting to turn again as to how the current set of restrictions could be loosened. An analysis released today by the Labour Party says that infection rates are coming down slower in poorer areas and particularly slowly in the 20 so-called red wall constituencies that were lost by the party in 2019. Well, we can talk now to the Labour Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham. Thank you very much for being on the programme, Mr Burnham. Now, you've said that there's a strong case to send vaccines to areas with lower life expectancy. So are you saying then that poorer people should receive the vaccine before older people in more affluent areas?
It's got to be a judgment based on health, Sophie. So what I'm saying is the life expectancy rate varies very widely across the UK. There are places where it's 10 years behind the areas where it's highest. So basically what that means is in those areas, people in their 60s have the same level of health as people in their 70s in other areas. And it also is the case, I have to make this point as well, that those same areas where life expectancy is lowest tend to be the places where more people are out at work in those key professions, so working in essential retail in supermarkets or driving buses or driving taxis. So clearly they are at greater risk. I'm not saying this morning diverge completely from the phase set out by ages put forward by JCVI, but I am saying put greater supplies of the vaccine into those areas where life expectancy is lowest and allow greater flexibility for people to be called earlier.
The vaccine rollout seems to be going really pretty well so far. Credit to the government for that. When do you think we should start thinking about easing lockdown?
It needs to be done carefully, and I think so far the date of early March for schools to return feels about right to me. What I would say, though, is let's not have a return to the tiers that we had before. We don't believe they worked, and the better approach, we think, would be a phased national release from lockdown where other sectors can return after schools when it's judged right to do so. That also means keeping in place, obviously, the national support for the sectors that will take longest to return. So we don't feel that the tiers worked. It was a divisive approach in the end and created a lot of confusion amongst the public as to the rules that they were being asked to follow. And in our region here in the northwest, where Greater Manchester was in a higher tier than the Liverpool City region, where shops open for longer and there was bars and restaurants still open. What happens in those circumstances is you give people an incentive to travel from one part of a region to another. And that, of course, can lead to spread of the virus. And I think the figures in Liverpool suggest that is exactly what happened before Christmas. So I don't see a case for a return to the tiers. I think the Prime Minister is talking about a national phase release from lockdown. Here in Greater Manchester, we would certainly support that.
You say that you don't believe the tier system worked, and from a Greater Manchester perspective, who seem to be stuck in the higher tiers for so long, I can understand that. But at the same time, you mentioned Liverpool, it does seem to work in other areas. If you look at Liverpool, they went into tier 3 on 14th of October last year, a case rate of 468 per 100,000 people. But by the end of October, that had dropped right back down to 315. So in some areas, the tier system did work, didn't it?
People, if you look at what actually happened in that instance, people say that Liverpool was already showing a decrease before the tier system came in. I think there are examples where you can argue it both ways, possibly, Sophie. But overall, we've looked at the analysis, and certainly in Greater Manchester, the tier system at no point turned the number of cases around and brought a sharp decline, possibly dampened the number of cases. But we don't think was sufficient to stop the spread of the virus. And even in Liverpool, which was in a tier, wasn't in no tier before Christmas, the tier that it was in didn't, of course, stop the spread. And the key thing to bear in mind here is the emergence of the new strains. So we've got a bigger challenge on our hands than the one we had last year. And the tiers weren't strong enough to contain the old, milder form of the virus. They certainly won't be strong enough to contain these new, more aggressive strains that we're seeing emerge around the country. So the phased national approach is the right one as far as I can see.
Seriously, if we bring the tier system back in, Manchester and the North are going to get it again. We're going to get screwed over. We're going to get done over. We're going to be literally put back into that box again. If you are going to undo this lockdown, you need to do it nationally, because it's proven that it doesn't work. People go between regions, between cities. If you lock one city down, someone will then go to another city where they can have a late night drink or a night out. It does not work. If you have not figured that out yet, you've not got a brain cell.
Thank you for watching. I'm impressed. You've passed the IQ test and got this far, so let's press that button. Let's do the last thing that helps us. It's got subscribe on it, you can't miss it, and please ring the bell for notifications of future videos.